Hey, good morning, everyone. Um, we're going to give this a couple minutes to see if anyone else shows up a little late. How's everybody doing? There's a chat box. You can chime in there. Tell me how your day's going. If you got big weekend plans. This is the first mortgage puzzle webinar for realtors and mortgage professionals. Thank you, Mr. Jackson. Give it a few more minutes. Well, this is the first realtor mortgage puzzle webinar that we're doing. This is going to be an ongoing thing. We're going to see how it plays out. Um, right now, we're going to do it once a week. If you're signed up for the webinar, after the webinar, I'll send you a recording. This is meant to be a 15-minute webinar with a question and answer afterwards. Um, and why we are doing this. Want to help realtors, learn from experience that, we've gained. Heck, I'd like to learn from experience that you've gained. Also, mortgage professionals as well. I get calls often from other people in the mortgage industry picking my brain, especially on government deals, FHA and VA, and sometimes the USDA realm as well. But most of the time, the problems happen in the middle of the week, on the weekend. If you ever have a situation like that, feel free to reach out to me. Most of you should have my contact information. Um, Sometimes it's good to know what the hurdles are before you're writing a contract and learn how to or know how to write that contract so you can avoid those hurdles. Um, So just trying to share my experience with you guys, maybe gain some experience from you guys as well. But each week we're going to do this. I'm going to give you an example of a real scenario, what hurdle maybe I've seen, and how you can avoid those when it comes time to write a contract or get a file, get a transaction to closing. So that being said, let's go ahead and get started on this week's scenario. Anybody that has any questions during the scenario, just put something in the chat box. I see it right there. And we'll go from there. So this week, I've got an FHA purchase price $306,000 with low credit score. It's the first domino of three pending transactions. The good situation about this borrower is they're selling their current house and they've got $140,000 that they're netting on the sale of their house to put toward this transaction. Um, the current lender's credit report, they were already with a lender um, with an FHA appraisal. FHA appraisals can transfer over to the new lender. Their credit report had expired. They had to repull credit and their credit score dropped to 579. Um, we require 580 for FHA transactions. The current lender was asking for a 30-day extension, hoping that their credit score would rebound. The borrower actually had a auto loan that went 30 days late since they had pulled the last credit. Um, it's a husband and wife. The the wife is not on the loan, the husband is, and like a lot of younger buyers these days, husbands and wives have separate accounts. Um, and for whatever reason, they decided to run all the money through the wife's account who is not on the loan. Um, she wrote the earnest money check, which is not our borrower's account. Um, and they also, in the wife's account, they went NSF. The wife had multiple affirm payments that were coming out, and the bank statement was just a mess, something that you just wanted to avoid completely. So just to, that kind of gives you the scenario, what we're looking like. I was called on the evening of April 23rd, and this is kind of how it went down for us. So when I pulled on April 23rd, the credit scores were 579, just like the previous lender. We needed a 580. Um, there was a way to get the score up. So what we did, I talked to the customer. I said, "This is what I need from you," so we could order a credit rescore for them. Um, we ordered the rescore on April 24th. We got the new credit in on April 27th. We had a 583. Um, they had already paid $200 down on a credit card to get it from over the limit to under the limit. I got a statement from them. We sent that into our credit bureaus. That's how we got the rescore. Once we got the rescore, I talked to them about how they wanted to get their mortgage set up. The previous lender took all the money and put it down on the house, but they didn't take care of what these customers, in my opinion, I thought that they really needed was a simpler budget. They had multiple credit cards, they had multiple collections. The wife had a lot of things. That's why she wasn't on the credit. We're addressing her stuff as well. So, what I put together for them was a transaction that not only put 15% down, paid $50,000 off in credit card, student loan, installment, and collection debt, and gave them some rainy day money. They're going to have about $25,000 left over after closing for rainy days, reserves. Um, you probably know when we do a loan, we run it through an AUS, automated underwriting system, on the computer. I didn't, when I put the scenario together, I didn't have to do anything. It came back to proved eligible the first try. Um, the other thing that we did is we omitted the earnest money, the statement that showed the earnest money. The earnest money was less than 1% of the sales price, so we just needed a copy of the earnest money check. We didn't have to prove that it came out of the account, so we just avoided submitting the non-borrowing spouse's bank statement, which made things quite a bit easier. So loan was clear to close on 5/6. It was clear to close on Wednesday, and it's closing today at noon. And everyone's going to be at that closing for all four transactions. It's crazy. So I'm looking forward to showing my face there. So what I would have done if I had gotten this loan to begin with is when you've got a lower credit score, um, I generally take the file and we send it in to have it reviewed by an underwriter ahead of time. There's so many things that we look for when we're sending it in, but there's so many more things that the underwriter looks for. And it's good just to have a second set of eyes on it. Um, we call that a step ahead at Ruoff, and lots of lenders have this. Um, so if you've got a borrower that might be tight, if whoever you're dealing with as far as the mortgage goes, I would ask for that thing to be underwritten if at all possible, especially if there's a few days in between. We currently underwrite in 24 hours. So, if I'm talking to a borrower on Saturday and getting them pre-approved and I get their documents on Monday, we send it in by Wednesday at the latest. I have an underwriting approval. Um, the earnest money. When you're a real estate agent, and when I see the check for the earnest money, um, I'm always looking at where it came from. Obviously, cash is not allowed for an earnest money deposit. At least we can't prove where it came from. If your buyer gives you a money order, like a bunch of $500 money orders, you really need to ask. That's not something that is easy for us to prove where it came from. So I would avoid that at all costs. If the check comes from someone other than the buyer, um, that's not always horrible, but it's not best case scenario. If mom and dad write the check, that's considered a gift, and there's documentation that's needed with that. Um, so just take a look at that earnest money check when you get it. Ask where it came from. The one thing that I'm trying to do on this webinar, this realtor puzzle piece, is I'm trying to push local, local, local. It's in your best interest as a real estate agent to work with someone local. If you're not working with me, there's plenty of local people out there that do great jobs, but you're going to get someone that knows the area. You're going to get someone that's probably not doing 50 transactions a month and can pay attention to the details of the transaction. So local is what I recommend. Um, and always ask if the file's been reviewed by an underwriter. Um, it's you can ask your lender questions. I actually put a list of questions you could ask lenders that are out of the area. It's probably 30 questions that they don't want to hear. But anyway, that's kind of my webinar for the day, my scenario, what happened, and how you avoid it in the future. We're going to do this weekly. So, like I said, if you have any questions, now's the time. We're going to do a quick question and answer. Um, does anybody have any questions or anything that they'd like to add to this? Feel free to put it in the chat box and we'll go from there. We got a very small crowd today. Like I said, it's the first week, so I don't expect many questions, but this is your time you'd ask scenarios about appraisals, credit, income, anything, any kind of hurdle that might come up. All right, so no questions I see. Um, going once, going twice. All right, that's it for today. I appreciate everyone joining. Have a good one.